Hello and welcome back to our video series on how to FreeBSD. I'm Sam and today we're going to jump into the world of FreeBSD boot environments. A boot environment in FreeBSD is a snapshot of your system at a particular moment in time thanks to the power of the ZFS file system. Imagine being able to freeze your system before an update, and if something breaks, then revert back to that frozen state. Well, that's exactly what FreeBSD boot environments are for. So we need to start by making sure that ZFS is actually enabled on our system. If you're following this video series, we did that in the last video. So in this video, I'm not going to go through how to install FreeBSD. If you've not done that already, you can refer back to that video, and I'll leave a link to it up here. So if we switch across to our FreeBSD system, I'm SSH'd in with PowerShell. So the easiest way to see if we're using ZFS is to simply type mount. And we can see that got Z root. So there's a number of ways of doing it. You can also do ZFS show, ZFS list, sorry, which will show you that you're doing it. With that, the command to access boot environments is bectl, boot environment control. Just press enter. It'll give you a list of the various options that are available to yourself. So if we do bectl list, that will list our boot environments. So we've got this column here, BE, which is the name of the boot environment. We've got the active column, which shows you which boot environment is currently active, and the mount point, the amount of space it's using, and when it was created. So under the active column, there's two flags, N and R. So N is now, so the boot environment that you're in at the moment. So whichever, if you've got multiple of them, it will show N for the one that's currently active. And the R is for reboot. So if the R flags against one of the boot environments, it means when you boot, when you reboot, it will go into that boot environment. In the last video, you may have noticed one of the steps that I missed towards the end, which was intentional, was I never actually did the upgrade of FreeBSD or check for updates once we'd started. So I was going to do it towards the end, and I thought, no, I'll leave that so we can show you during a boot environment, because it's the perfect example of when to use boot environments. So in order to create a new boot environment, we can do bectl create. In fact, do as, because you have to be as root. So do as bectl, then we want to create, and I'm just going to do before update. And now if we do bectl list, you can see we've got our default boot environment listed, but we've also got our new one, before update. So the N for now is active against the default one, and so is the R. So what we want to do is to activate our before update environment. So what we're going to do is do as, or sudo, whichever you prefer, if you've got that installed and using that. We want bectl, and then we're just going to do activate for update. Now we've got this message, successfully activated boot environment before update. So when we reboot, we'll go into that boot environment. Now, if we do bectl list, you can see that the R is against the before update and the N is against the default, which is the one that we're in now. So because we've set the R flag and it's active for the before update one, when we reboot into the system, that one will be active. So let me just go ahead and do that. Okay, so if we do as bectl list, we can now see we're on before update. So we've still got the default one there, but what I'm going to do is do a system update. So do as FreeBSD FreeBSD update. Mine went blank then. Fetch, and that will check for any new updates to the operating system. We've found an update and we're preparing to download the files. Okay, so the updates listed a bunch of files that have changed, which are kernel ones. So what we'll do is, at this point, you can scroll through it, press an enter key, or you can just press Q to quit out of it. Now, currently, let me do uname -a. So you can see we're on FreeBSD 14 release #0. So what we're going to do is go ahead and install those updates. So do it as FreeBSD update install, which will install the files it's just fetched. That's done. If I reboot again, okay, we're back, so we can log back in. Now if you do uname -a, you can see we're now on FreeBSD 14 release -p3. So that was actually a system update. If we do as FreeBSD install, do as FreeBSD -update install, so run fetch first. That's good, and then you can update the packages. So packages are up to date. So what I was saying is, we're now on FreeBSD 14 release -p3. Previously it was just on release. So if we do as bectl and list our boot environments, our default one is still there. Now you'll notice there was a 1.5 gig change on that. Now when you do updates on FreeBSD, I'm just showing you how to use this tool, but FreeBSD does automatically create one for you. So it did that before it did the upgrade for me. So now if we reboot back into our default one, do as bectl activate default, and then reboot again. Just sorry, again, just so you get this, you understand this. So before update, the one that we're on is that's now, and this R flag is showing that we're going to reboot into the default one. So do as reboot. Yep, we've rebooted. Now if we go ahead and log back in again, do as bectl list, you can see we're now back on our default boot environment. And if we do uname -a, you can see we're no longer on 14.0 release p3. We're just on 14 release. So I'm going to go ahead and boot back into the other one again. So do as bectl activate before update. I'm going to go ahead and reboot again. I'll pause this for you so you don't have to wait. Okay, I've rebooted, so let me log back in again. So do as bectl list just to check where we're up to. I know I keep repeating myself, but I just want to make sure that you understand how these work. So before update, N and R, so it's currently active and we'll reboot into it as well. So that worked. If anything went pear-shaped, then we could have just rebooted back into the default environment like we did. But because it was successful, we can now delete the old one because we don't need it. So I can do as bectl destroy. Now, when you destroy them, specify the -o flag, which will destroy any ZFS snapshots related to it as well. We can do destroy default, and do as bectl list. We can see that that's gone. So you can, like, it's up to you how many of these you keep, but they will take up disk space eventually. It's a good idea to keep at least one previous one in case something does go wrong. An important point worth noting about boot environments is that you can also choose which boot environment to boot into from the FreeBSD startup menu. So let me show you what I mean. I just switch this over. Sorry, I know this is a bit smaller, but it's because I'm on the console of the system. If I do password, password. I'll just reboot this. When we get the startup menu, I believe it's option 8. Yeah, so option 8 is boot environment. So if we press 8, and you'll see it says the active one is before update. Now, you'll see it says 1 of 2, showing that there's 2 boot environments available. So if I press 2, now the one that's active is the one that FreeBSD created itself. So if you press 1 to go back to the main menu, then we boot. Just switch this over so you can see it properly. So now if we do as bectl list, you can see that the one that's now active is the one that says 14.0 release, which was the one that FreeBSD created. And the one that we had that was active for update, it's still got the R against it, which means that if we reboot, we will reboot back into that one. So if you want to reboot back into this one, then you need to activate that one. Just wanted to point that out as well, because that's a great feature of FreeBSD. Boot environments are very, very powerful. Okay, so with that, I've put a couple of tips together when you're using boot environments. Excuse me. So use descriptive and consistent names. For example, instead of using generic names like boot environment 1, BE2, whatever you're going to use descriptive names to indicate the purpose of at the time of creation. For example, pre-upgrade -12.2, post patch, or just be descriptive so you know what they are. If you include the dates in chronological order, for example, 2024-01-22 pre-upgrade. This just helps you quickly identify when each boot environment was created. I know it is listed when you list the boot environments, but it does help, trust me. Version numbers, so if you're doing boot environments on a regular basis, you can put like V1, V2 at the end of it. Use a standard prefix or suffix. So use test, stable, dev, if you're changing between kernels, or test new kernel. Avoid special characters and spaces. So stick to alphanumeric characters where possible. Dashes and underscores, but avoid spaces and special characters that might cause parsing issues in scripts and commands. That's bit me in the ass a couple of times. So, and just be short but informative with them. So keep the names short enough so that you can type them in and refer to them easily. Long names can be a bit of a pain in the ass. If you're working in a team such as we do here, document them. Document your naming scheme so that everybody that's working with you knows how they work. Just a couple of things that might help you along the way. And then just following on from that, some common pitfalls. So overusing boot environments. Creating too many boot environments for minor changes just clutters things up and can cause confusion. So just use them for significant system changes. Running out of disk space. So although ZFS is efficient, excessive creation of boot environments without monitoring the space can eventually eat the storage space. And not cleaning up, again, it's down to storage space. Not cleaning up old or unneeded environments can lead to unnecessary consumption of disk space again. And then just to address some misconceptions, boot environments are full backups. So they're not. Boot environments, it's just a snapshot of your system state. Mainly the root file system, not the user data located in like your home folder and stuff like that. So If you delete some files out of your home directory and you reboot into another boot environment, they'll be deleted as well. Now there are ways of backing them up as well, by appending tac R when you're doing it. But I'm going to do a more advanced boot environment. This is obviously beginning at this stage. But there is a misconception that boot environments are complicated to manage, and they're really not. They're quite straightforward to manage. They only get complex with advanced use cases, which we'll go through in a future video. And the immediate changes on post creation. So I hope I've explained that well enough at this stage that some people believe that as soon as you create the boot environment, any new changes that you make will automatically be incorporated that boot environment. But it only includes the system state at the time of its creation, so any changes made after that are just not included automatically. And some people feel there's an impact on system performance or worry about an impact on system performance. But the way ZFS works, it really isn't. In reality, the impact on performance is negligible since boot environments just ZFS snapshots and clones, so they're highly efficient. And just to be thorough, so bectl is built into FreeBSD, the latest versions of it. There's also a package which bectl is based on called beadm for boot environment admin, and you can install that package if you'd like. If you do as package install beadm, and again it's pretty much the same functionality, the same commands. So list, create. It's just got fewer options, so you might find that easier for yourself to use. I will cover that as well in a later video when I do cover boot environments a bit more, how you can clone them and import them and things like that. But just for thoroughness of this video, I did want to mention it. So today we've covered the essentials of FreeBSD Boot Environments, a powerful tool for managing your system's integrity. So experiment carefully with them and you'll find that they'll greatly enhance your FreeBSD experience. They are a great addition to the latest versions for FreeBSD. So if you found this video useful, it's about time you can hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications icon, and before you disappear off anywhere, I'll leave a link to the FreeBSD playlist until the next video is available, in which case I'll update it and put the next video on there as well. Please, if you've got any comments about boot environments, leave them in the comments below. I'm happy to help if you have any queries about it. You can head over to our forums at forums.sheridancomputers.co.uk. I'll leave a link below anyway. I'll catch you in the next video.